back to the US, where the left-leaning Democrat, Zohran Mamdani, has won the race to be the mayor of New York City. He told a victory rally the result marks the dawn of a better day for humanity. The 34-year-old will be New York's first Muslim mayor and its youngest for more than a century. Correspondents say Mr. Mamdani focused his campaign message on the economy, affordability, diversity, and his identity. He said he was unapologetic about his Muslim faith and about being a Democrat, a democratic socialist. Elsewhere, the Democrats won the governor's races in New Jersey and Virginia, where they also seized the Attorney General's office from the Republicans. And they retained 3 seats on the state Supreme Court in the crucial swing state of Pennsylvania. Donald Trump suggested the government shutdown, now the longest ever, had been a factor. And in California, voters agreed to aggressively redraw the state's congressional district lines to wipe out as many as 5 Republican seats. The move delivers a victory for Governor Gavin Newsom and national Democrats hoping to wrest control of the House of Representatives in 2026.
One can show a nation betrayed by Donald Trump how to defeat him. It is the city that gave rise to him. And if there is any way to terrify a despot, it is by dismantling the very conditions that allowed him to accumulate power. This is not only how we stop Trump, it's how we stop the next one. So Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up.
This campaign was to contest the philosophies that are shaping the Democratic Party, the future of this city, and the future of this country. Congratulations to Zohran Mamdani. That is not right, and that is not us. That is not us. Tonight was their night, and as they start to transition to government, we will all help any way we can because we need our New York City government to work. We want it to work for all New Yorkers. New York City heard us, and we will be the better for it. Thank you. God bless you.
The vanquished, and before him, the victor. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now on the line from Washington, D.C. by Arise special correspondent James Blue. How nice to see you again, James. It's been a while, but it's great to see you back on our screens again, and lots to talk about. Let's start in New York City, where Zohran Mamdani has etched his name in history as the city's youngest mayor in a century and the first Muslim to hold the position. I mean, how much of a massive generational change is this for New York and indeed for America?
Yeah, Charles, it's really great to be back with you. This is a very big change, and the real sort of sense is that Mayor-elect Mamdani really ran a campaign that spoke to New Yorkers. I am a resident of New York City, and there is a real affordability crisis. It's hard to pay rent, it's hard to pay for people's children to be kept, and it is really, really quite difficult to get around the city. So his focus on affordability is really what sort of created a path for him to win this race in a real surprise and upset. The ground was really laid because New York currently has a very, very unpopular mayor. He is also a Democrat. And, the mayor, Eric Adams, just never really lived up to the task. He's a former police officer. He was involved in scandals from the very beginning of his administration. And during the primary, Zohran, mayor-elect, just sort of came through, and he came through with a real sort of plan to listen to New Yorkers who were not particularly feeling that their needs were being met, or more importantly, that they were being heard. So he went into the districts of New York City that were most supportive of President Trump in the last election in 2024. He listened to those voters and he found out what those voters really wanted. And what they wanted was and is a more affordable New York City. And that's what he is hoping to deliver now that he has a victory. A victory that I will note he has just pushed over 50% of the folks who've voted. There will be absentee ballots counted. And so he will have a majority of the votes cast in this election, which is a real sort of mandate for someone who is so young and someone who is new to the broad political scene.
Well, absolutely. And as you pointed out there, James, it's great victory, but after the celebration, he's now got to prove that he's well equipped to deliver. I mean, can people put faith in a 34-year-old for such a significant political role as the debate over the Democratic Party's future continues up until the midterms next year? Or will many people in the Democratic Party be running scared of the fact that he represents a sort of radicalism that many Democrats are uncomfortable with?
Charles, that's a very good question. And certainly the pressure is on for the mayor-elect. But I think there are some signs that he recognizes and hopes to sort of meet that task. First, I've spoken to some insiders, people who were involved in the initial Obama campaign, people who were involved with the Obama administration and the larger Democratic Party. They're very excited because the energy around Mayor-elect Mamdani is very similar to the energy that was around then Senator Obama and now then President Obama. So they're excited about that energy. In terms of sort of whether his label and his embrace of democratic socialism is going to scare people, I think the lesson that his team are really trying to push is that they focus on issues that mattered to everyday New Yorkers, which is affordability. Can I pay my rent? Can my kids be looked after? And can I get around the city as cheaply and in some cases free? And if you contrast that to the national campaign of the Democratic candidate, Vice President Kamala Harris, one of the central economic platforms of her campaign was, we will give you $25,000 for a house down payment. Now, if you can't make rent, if you can't make sure your kids are cared for, if you're living day to day, paycheck to paycheck, a fact that you can possibly qualify for a $25,000 down payment means nothing. And so what the insiders that I've spoken to have suggested, that they hope Democrats take the message that if you focus on the issues that matter, affordability, in trying to make this country and this city a better place, there is a path to victory. And if you look at the way President Trump really focused his campaign on those people who felt left out, not heard, not spoken to, and sort of really absent from the political moment, I think Mayor-elect Mamdani, as much animus as there seems to be between him and the president, I think they really share a very, very common story.
And James, beyond sort of New York City, the Democratic Party has also won other key elections across the United States, including the contest for governor of New Jersey and Virginia, where the Democrats also seized the Attorney General's office from the Republicans. And I understand they also retained 3 seats in the state Supreme Court in the crucial swing state of Pennsylvania. Tell us about the significance of those victories.
Well, let's start with the state of Virginia, which is closest to us here in Washington, D.C. Virginia has one of the highest percentages of federal workers. Many of those workers are now on furlough, not receiving any pay because the government remains, as you've mentioned before, in the longest shutdown ever. And so I think what you have, and this really is sort of true to form, Virginia has an off-year election, and the Democrats were able to take it because they ran a candidate who is a former military person. She's a former officer within the CIA. She had been a member of the U.S. House, and she really spoke to the issues that matter. Her campaign was largely anti-Trump, and I think that resonated. And I really think you had this wonderful confluence of the shutdown, the destruction of the East Wing, and a real sense that the Republicans and President Trump in particular are kind of out of touch with the issues that matter to people. As you've noted, the shutdown is the longest we've ever seen, and it doesn't really seem as if President Trump is doing anything to kind of get the parties together and to end the shutdown. I think that callous action has backfired, and I think it really showed up in Virginia. As for New Jersey, that was a case where the Democratic victor was in a much tougher race because she was running against someone who called himself a Jersey boy, and really tried to to capture some of the complaint and some of the real upset that President Trump has been able to capture with working class voters. It was not enough. One of the main issues in the race was this very, very desperately needed tunnel that is going to create another connection between New York City and New Jersey. President Trump has canceled that tunnel, and the winning candidate, Mikey, has decided that she really wants that tunnel to be built, and she's going to do everything she can to bring those funds back. Finally, in Pennsylvania, where the Supreme Court is an elected body, it turns out that was a real wonderful moment for Democrats to retain the seats, and it is an indicator that Pennsylvania, which voted for Donald Trump in 2024 and for Donald Trump in 2016, is really a purple state. It flips and flops and goes different ways, but in this election, just yesterday, they were able to keep those seats in the Democratic column.
And briefly, James, in California, voters agreed to redraw that state's political boundaries, wiping out as many as 5 Republican seats. I mean, assess that vote for us against the backdrop of the Democrats hoping to wrest control of the House of Representatives from the Republicans next year.
Yeah, Charles, I think that is probably the most important event of yesterday, where the Democrats in California have created the opportunity for having 5 more seats in the House of Representatives, which may just be enough to give them the majority. If they get that majority, the whole tenor of Donald Trump's second administration and the second half of that administration will change. They'll be able to investigate, they'll be able to do things that they cannot do now because the Democrats simply have no power. It was a gamble, and it's paid off, and now we'll see, will they be able to produce the majority that they so hope to gain in next year's midterms?
Indeed. And so how much, James, in conclusion, have all these Democratic victories sent a direct message to the Donald Trump White House that perhaps U.S. politics needs a new direction and that perhaps President Trump is losing his popular appeal?
I think there is a very direct message to the White House and to President Trump. Actually, just on the other side of the White House at the Washington Monument is a no fascism protest, which started this morning about an hour ago. I think the president and his team are really trying to figure out what the way forward is. They've seemed out of touch, supportive of very, very wealthy donors. Just today in the Supreme Court, his actions on tariffs are being question. And, as you may or may not know, the president does not have the power to set tariffs. That is with the U.S. Congress. And so I think there is it's going to be a recalibration, a redirection, simply because the policies of this Trump administration at the moment don't seem to be working. His approval rating is the lowest it's ever been at 37%. That's lower than when the January 6th rioters, his supporters, overtook the Capitol to disrupt the peaceful transfer of power. So you have to believe that they are working now to figure out a way forward. We're here in Lafayette Square. We were here this morning. We had no problems with access. That access was curtailed at 7:30 this morning. We asked some of the Secret Service, Capitol Police officers why that has happened, and they basically said the president is having a meeting today and we just needed to increase the perimeter. So things are changing. They're changing, sort of minute by minute, and whether the new strategy will work, who knows. But my informed sources say the next thing that's going to happen is the shutdown is going to end, and they hope that that will put the White House on better footing and that they will be able to grow and expand from that. So stay tuned, Charles.
We will indeed, James, and hoping that President Trump's troubles at home bring some reprieve for Nigeria. But that's a chat for another day. Great to talk with you, James, and great to see you back on Arise Television. James Blue is Arise special correspondent. He was talking to me on the line there from Washington, D.C.